All right. Well, greetings and salutations to everybody out there in YouTube land. I'm your host once again, Dan Thornton. I want to thank you all for joining us the day after the Super Bowl, the day the new season begins. And you know what? Lions fans everywhere probably got to be watching yesterday's game, last night's game, and saying, man, you know what? We maybe should be here and winning this thing. Neither team's offense, in my opinion, looked great. The game, actually, I'm going to guess for most people, unless you had a vested interest in the outcome of the game, might have lacked some real excitement. There was star power. I get a lot of people enjoyed the halftime show, etc. But to me, boy, it seemed like a real yawner for the most part. Went into overtime. Hey, one team made one more play than the other team. That's typically how it goes. But I'll say this. Neither team, at least in my opinion, looked like somebody the Lions had no business being on the field with. In fact, I would say this. If the Lions would have been in the game last night, I think there's a strong possibility they may have won that thing. But it is what it is. The Lions are looking at that, probably using that as rocket fuel to push them forward. And as you can tell from the thumbnail, this show I want to talk to you guys about, are there any trades really out there for us to get? I know in the last week or so, people have mentioned Joey Bosa, Hanson Riddick, and other people as well. But then I got to thinking, a couple of you guys messaged me during the Super Bowl last night and said, hey, what do you think about this guy? What do you think about this person? Would Brad Holmes consider making a trade for XYZ? And I started thinking about some of your points. A few of you brought up points about, hey, we're going to be drafting the latter portions of each of these rounds. So even though we have a first round pick, it's kind of closer to a second round pick. Second round pick is kind of closer to the third round pick. We all know Brad Holmes likes to make trades, usually on draft day, though. So is this the year he changes course a little bit? Does he say, hey, we're going to go out and get one or two guys or whatever it may be to really push this team another level forward? I'll hold back on my thoughts. I think you guys probably are guessing mine, but at any rate, I want to see what you guys have to say about it. Now, before we get into the video, a couple things you guys know. If you haven't yet subscribed to Lions Talk Live, please consider doing so. We're less than 20 subs away from hitting 5,800. Really trying to get to that mark. Also, if you enjoy the content in the show, don't be afraid to hit the thumbs up button thing and go from there. Last but never least, because I am a working man and I enjoy working 18 hours a day, if you're looking to buy or sell homes, property, vacant land, whatever it is, in the state of Michigan, give me a call or shoot me a text, 269-998-2384. Even if you're outside of Michigan and you just need someone to give you some thoughts or maybe some advice, go ahead and give me a call or shoot me a text. Let's see what I can do to help you on out. All right, let's go ahead and get over to the comments section, see what you guys think about trading the Super Bowl or just the Lions in general. So don't be afraid to hold back your thoughts. One other thing, I almost forgot. One other thing I do want to talk about going forward on Lions Talk Live, especially since it's election year. I've got zero problem with anybody having an opinion on candidate A or B. I'm going to be as straight up and honest as I can be. I just don't get into politics. I couldn't tell you the difference between one person and the other as far as the political views. It doesn't matter to me. So I'm going to say this. As we get closer to the election, I get it's going to be some people get really into it, sort of like sports or whatever. I'm just going to say Lions Talk Live. Let's not debate politics here, nor religion. It's just, hey, we all probably know there's certain things that are lightning rods to people. I just don't want to do that stuff here. So I'll reiterate this probably a few times over the course of the year. Please keep political comments or religious comments and takes out of the chats. So pretty pleased with sugar on top. Let's try to avoid that. All right, now getting on to the good stuff. Let's get on to that Golden Mountain Dew. All right, JDC, Robin Williams voice. Good morning, Vietnam. Sorry, morning. You're fine, man, and thank you for that. Hey, Eduardo, good morning. If there is one thing I know about DC, he wanted to have played for OT, and he would have gotten he wouldn't have gotten to OT, would have gone for the TD. Yeah, I would say it's consistent with who he is. I get it. I mean, hey, it's who our guy is. It's who our head coach is. Who knows? Maybe he would have kicked some field goals, but yeah, the game probably would not have made overtime. So I get your point there, Eduardo. Moonscar, good morning, Dew Crew! Exclamation point. Mostly disappointing Super Bowl, Bud Light, Genie, and T-Mobile commercials with Zach Braff, Donald Frazier, and Jason Moa were the highlights. Yeah, for me, I don't think I made any bones about it. The big reason why I was going to watch the Super Bowl were twofolds. One, I wanted to see the Deadpool 3 trailer, which I thought was kind of meh. You had to go online to see the better one. And then the other one was just I wanted to try to scope out any potential free agents. Other than that, my interest in the game was kind of not as high as it may have normally been. All right, Anthony, good morning. Do Cruz, Super Bowl or bust? The only thing good about last night's Super Bowl is I hit 150 on my squares, in which I was supposed to be the Lions. Well, congrats on the big win. Hopefully you enjoy a Mountain Dew or hot dog today, and hopefully you have some fun with that money. So enjoy your winnings, my friend. Eduardo, got to give credit to KC. Their entire defense was built through the draft. It was, man. Have true studs everywhere. They do. And, we all know that Chris Jones is going to need to do contract. And if he's not giving it by Kansas City, that dude's going somewhere else. And I still think he's got a few years left of high motor skills. And he can, man, even last night, you could see where he was getting after it. But anyways, and then you've got some other guys on their D like Snead that are going to be free agents. 49ers, man, I felt bad for him when Greenlaw went down, just getting onto the sidelines. Oof. And then obviously they had some others injuries too. But yeah, KC's scouting department, to your point, Eduardo, kudos and bravo, whatever you want to say to them, high marks or whatever. But those guys they did a great job with that draft, sort of like the Lions have been doing. They specifically focused on the defense. You know what? That defense, man, they made plays all throughout the night. All right, Robert Green, salutations all back at you, buddy. Wardo, it came out that Chicago wants Hunter. I'm going to be sick if Chicago has 2-star pass rushers and we don't get Hutch any help. I would say this. I wonder what they're going to do to get him or how much they're going to pay him, I guess you would say. If they get him, you're going to have to block both of them. The other part is, to your point, and that's obviously one of the takes on the thumbnail, do the Lions go out and try to get somebody via a trade or free agency to really help out Hutch? I think it's definitely, most of us would agree, it's a high need. And if you don't really feel that you'll be able to get it in this year's draft, I guess you got to ask yourself how else are you going to get it. All right, Pickering Auto. Morning, Dan, Duke Crew. Being fair, last night's Super Bowl is one of the better in a lot of years. Watching both teams last night, the QB mobility of both quarterbacks pretty much defined the game. Yeah, the ability to get out and scramble. I get that's the one knock it seems like most people have on our guy Goff. But hey, if that's what we want, we're gonna have to go in a different direction than Jared Goff, because all the coaching in the world ain't gonna make him any quicker or faster. So it's just not his forte. It's not his strength. So, and I get everybody wants the guy that can run and cause problems matchup wise for defenses. I get it, but it's just not who he is. So if we're gonna go that route, we're gonna have to find a new quarterback. But we'll see what the team chooses to do. Pickering. All right, Moonscar. Me too, Eduardo. Me too. Fair enough. All right. Anthony, hey, thanks for that. Thanks for that very much. I will enjoy a delicious hot dog and Mountain Dew. Thank you for that. And leave Bobby a tip. See, what's your thoughts on the Riddick possible trade? To me, I guess it would come down to, are you going to play him at end? I know he's a linebacker, and yes, he can rush, but you're going to have to commit to, unless you're going to change the scope of the D to make it a little different. I just don't see him beating out Anzalone. I don't see them putting him on the sideline. They're probably not putting Campbell on the sideline. So does he beat out, Derek Barnes? I guess that's a possibility. Could you play him out on end full time? It's, like you would with Romeo Quaro or such. And then obviously the other part with that is, what do you have to give up to get him? I don't see Brad Holmes. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see Brad Holmes giving up like a third rounder, or a second rounder, or a first rounder. So it'd have to be like a fourth or lower. Then I think it's a possibility. It just, this would be something different than what we've seen in the past from Brad Holmes. But that also could mean an indication Brad Holmes now believes the team's at a situation or a state where now getting players like that to help push us forward is more logical in his mind. So food for thought. All right, Robert, I really don't want to say this, but I believe the Lions could have destroyed either team last night. Yeah, I didn't think either team played exceptionally well. I get some of that's just because both teams are aware you're in the Super Bowl. Both teams also kept the game close throughout the night. I mean, the biggest lead is what, 10 points? The 49ers had that, and then, Debo kind of at least gently pulled a hamstring or something to that effect. Give a lot of credit to Kansas City's defense for keeping them in the game until the offense could finally make some plays. But to your point, Robert, yeah, watching that game, I felt like the Lions could play and maybe beat either one of those teams in that scenario. So I agree. And I got to imagine most Lions fans will be thinking that same way after watching the game. All right, Eduardo, KC is proof that you can build a winner through the draft, but we don't have Mahomes. No, we do not have a Mahomes. You are 100% right. They've done it all basically through the draft. I mean, what are you going to do about the Mahomes part? There's probably not much he can do. There's only one or two dudes in the entire league that are like him. And the chance of getting someone who's like him, that's the tough part, I think. You've got a ton of potential on this team. Obviously, we've drafted incredibly well for some time. Now it's going to come down to, can you shore up a few things on D? I am going to do a piece, I don't know, I guess maybe tomorrow's show will make it about the debate, Goff, Hooker, pros and cons for both teams. Goff is a known quantity, I would say, at this point. We know what you're getting from him, what you're not getting from him. Hooker, it's the great question mark right now. Is he basically Mahomes and Goff, Alex Smith in the Kansas City, scenario? That's something we'll have to talk about tomorrow and try to dive into. I can see pros and cons with both scenarios, but until we ever see Hooker really perform in an NFL game and consistently for multiple games, let alone a season, you're taking a gamble on somebody potentially being better. Obviously Kansas City did this years ago with Patrick Mahomes. That worked out pretty well for him. Doesn't mean it automatically will happen for us, but Hooker does offer some things that Goff doesn't. Goff has a lot of experience and abilities that we just flat out don't know if Hooker has or does not have. All right, Eduardo. First half, yes, Robert. Second half, I'm not sure. Once the KC decided they weren't winning with the front four game, became different. Blah, blah, blah. I can't talk today. All right, so yes, I agree with you on that one there, Eduardo. All right, Anthony, agreed. We would have scored 40 plus on either team. Yeah, I think, the way both defenses were playing at times, I think we could have moved the ball on them for sure. Do I think we could have got a big lead? Absolutely. The other side of that is, unfortunately, our defense, while it's played in much, much better the last 2 months of the year, it's still probably giving up a few more points than what we saw last night. How many more? Man, that I don't know. Could we have gotten the same amount of pressure? I mean, let's be fair to the 49ers front four. They were getting after Mahomes quite a bit. Mahomes was, especially in the first half, incredibly limited. Second half, as the game went on, I think the 49ers front four wore down a little bit. Mahomes was able to get out and run a little bit more, scramble a little bit more. And then you could see the KC offense picking up a little bit. All right, Michael, howdy, Dan, Lions faithful, back at you. Hopefully you're having a great morning. Michael, yes, Anthony, 31 points at least. Yeah, I think if the Lions would have played, it would have been a higher scoring game for sure. And probably, unfortunately, for both teams, it would have been. But I think the Lions, would have scored somewhere in the 30 to the 40-point range, somewhere right around there at least. All right, Bill, greetings and salutations. Trading for someone like these two, I'd be fine with at a lower cost, even more so since we are drafting late in the rounds. Yeah, and that's kind of what I was saying earlier, that these picks, while they're still first, second, third round picks, they're not quite as valuable as obviously if they would have been middle or first portion of the rounds. So that being said, maybe this is the year Brad Holmes does consider making some trades. What I would give up for either guy, kind of like I said earlier in the show, it wouldn't be anything super high. It's just, Bosa especially, he's got a injury history the last few years. He is getting a little bit older. And with Hanson, Riddick or Hanson Riddick, kind of the same boat. If you wanted like a fifth or sixth rounder for him, probably I'd be open to that, but I'm not Brad Holmes. Maybe he'd do something more, whatever. I guess that's the great debate. We'll have to wait a few more months to see, but I am interested to see what you guys think about potentially acquiring either one of them. All right, Pickering, Robert Yankee, I agree 100%. Both teams played pretty shaky, and the Lions have spoiled us. Wasn't used to watching such a slow, low-scoring game. Makes next season look even more promising. Yeah, I would agree. So when I was watching for like potential free agents that maybe the Lions could sign or acquire, I was also trying to pay attention to our strengths versus both teams' weaknesses. Yes, we've played both teams. Yeah, Kansas City was a long, long time ago, basically at the start of the year. But I even watch them now, as much as they've improved, I also think the Lions have improved exponentially. I think our offense would have been very effective against their defense. I think we would have caused a lot of problems for them. Defensively, that's still the great issue of concern for the team is while the offense, if everything holds true, everybody stays healthy, etc., they're going to be relevant for a few more seasons to come, I believe. Now, the defense, though, and this isn't telling you guys anything you don't know. We need more ability to get after the other team's quarterback, and we need a little bit better coverage. If we can address those two things this year, I think the rest of the team is pretty sound, other than maybe a kicker. So there are limited needs for this team. We all know probably want a little bit more depth at offensive line, maybe even some future replacements. But this team is watching both Super Bowl contestants. This team is equal to both of them, if not maybe a little bit better. And there are some areas that we're going to be worse than both teams. But the point being, we have every ability and expectation, I believe, going forward to be on the same playing field and level as those teams. All right, Robert G., good morning. Dan and crew, back at you, buddy. Hope you're having a great morning. Jerome, hey, coach, what role do analytics play in your coaching strategy? Absolutely none, man. I don't pay attention to that stuff at all. And it doesn't mean that I don't think it doesn't have value. It's just the way I coach. I'm very instinctive. I'm going to be very aggressive. I don't really, to me, analytics are great in some things. And for certain personality types, they probably aid and assist a lot more. Maybe there's something I'm missing with them, but to me, I'm going to go with what I feel is the right play. I'm not really going to worry about what a group of compiled statistics are going to tell me, because it's, to me, if you use those, it's no different than going to the casino and going to the roulette wheel and they show you the hot numbers or whatever. Yeah, I'm just not paying attention to that. That's just me, though. It doesn't mean that it doesn't work for somebody else. Just not me. All right, Wardo. Hey, has anyone checked on the San Francisco fans? Question mark. They are really quiet these days. Yeah, I got to imagine it's a tough morning for all of them, tough evening for them. And it's sort of like when we lost the NFC Championship game. It took a lot of us listening to you guys, and I know me, that next day I was so completely out of it and emotionally drained. It took me days to recover. So I got to imagine Niner fans are no different. Boo. Good morning, Dew Crew. One thing about Taylor Swift, she supports her man. The Mountain Dew ad was hilarious. Yeah, it was. And Christopher Walken was fine. The Super Bowl, man. Yeah, I thought some of the commercials were good. But let me ask you guys, at least maybe it's just me being old or whatever. I don't know, man. I just remember the commercials in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, being so much superior than the overall commercials we get nowadays. I just remember him being hilarious, almost like every one of them. And he never saw the same commercial twice in the single Super Bowl. But there were some definitely good ones. It just seems like the quality of them have gone down the last 5-10 years or so. Quentin, what do you got? Greetings and salutations, y'all. I'm down with one of these dudes, and I'd be getting on some damn corner. Yeah, I'm with you there. If you could address those, think about in free agency or the off season. If you could acquire a couple people to hit those specific needs, then man, in the draft, you can really just go over whoever you want. The best players available, regardless of position, regardless of depth. You can just go out and get the best dudes for the team. And that's at least where I would like us to go. Brad Holmes may just say, no, we're going to stick with the draft and not really worry about free agency, which he kind of alluded to last week in his end of the season presser. So I guess we'll wait and see what he's thinking. Eduardo, TBH, I doubt Brad trades for either of these guys. Bosa is not what he once was, and Riddick is going to be too much. Yeah, and I would agree with you on Bosa 100%. Riddick, like I was saying at the start of the show, Eduardo, I just think it'd come down to what you'd have to give up to acquire him. And to your point, it's probably going to be more than what I think Dollar General Brad is going to want to give up. All right, Jerome, hey, Coach, how would you handle a player if you think he has mental health problems? Unfortunately, you coach long enough, you are going to encounter it. I don't care what sport, what situation, it's going to happen. you try to reach out. What I would say, at least, I would probably talk to your university, high school, whatever level you're coaching at. Talk to those representations there first. Usually they have some pieces in place to help somebody. You're going to want to talk to the respective families as well. Pro level, there's absolutely nowadays, for a long time now, for decades, if you starting to see something, they do have on staff personnel to help and assist with that, and do it respectfully, quietly. I know it's kind of a taboo thing for a lot of people. They don't want to own up to it. But if you catch somebody who you believe has some topics, yeah, try to do them a favor and try to do them a solid. Try to help them out. All right, Brother Ken, Andy Reid to Dan Campbell. Listen, man, there's nothing wrong with field goals, man. MCDC might have been watching last night's game and going, man, are these guys, both teams, doing this to spite me or what? Kicking all these field goals. But yeah, you're right with that, man. All right, Robert G. First day of a new season. It is. And you know what? Hey, we're one day closer to free agency, one day closer to the draft, one day closer to preseason football. Things for us all to consider. All right, Jerome. Hey, Coach, did you ever deal with a player who had a performance anxiety? How did you address that? Yeah, and I do find it's becoming more and more common. Really going to show my age here. There's a guy, one of the first people I ever had to scout. I won't give his first name out of respect, but last name was Keys, was a basketball player. You would have, when you first went into the arena to watch this kid play, you would have thought Michael Jordan. I mean, how is nobody got this dude on a roster somewhere? This cat is just, hitting threes from half court, left and right, crossing dudes over, getting to the hole and dunking on people left and right, defensively swatting shots, just outside of the world of expectations. Till a game got within about roughly 10 to 12 points, somewhere in that range. If his team was only up about that, or if they were down about that, man, he couldn't choke fast enough. But if a game was like a blowout, 20 points or whatever, yeah, greatest player you've ever seen play. And what I'm finding more and more with scouting and, just working with younger people, you see it more and more. And I don't know yet what the source cause of that is. Is it because, some of these kids are COVID babies? Lack of socialization skills some of them have developed. Over-reliance on electronic devices during key informative and developmental years from their emotional status. Is that what's causing it? But what I will say to you, Jerome, in all seriousness, in regards to both these questions, it's happening more and more. You see it in the workforce as well. I run into it at a higher rate when dealing with customers for houses too, especially if they're a first-time buyer. And I would say, in all fairness, if they're under the age of 23 or so, right around there, yeah, you see every little detail is just painstakingly difficult for them. And I don't mean any of this in a disrespectful way. I think it's a part of a certain window of age in our country here. To be fair, I have not noticed it as much in, say, some of the Asian countries I visit or Middle Eastern countries for scouting. It's there. It's just not as prominent. And I do believe a lot of it is because so many of these kids in the States have grown up with the device as a pseudo parent. It's made humanization or emotional bonding a little bit more difficult for some of these kids, and they don't know how to always handle some of the stress and anxiety of sporting events. They're having to learn to do that because they haven't dealt with some of those stressful situations in other life situations. There you go for that. All right, Boo, Superdome or bust. I like the way you're thinking. And you know what? All eyes on Detroit Lions need to be on the Superdome for the Super Bowl. All right, Michael, stat fact of the day, the first 57 Super Bowls, 7 made field goals, 50-plus yards. Yards this game, 3. Yeah, and you know I was joking with Jen about it because, man, you had one guy set a Super Bowl record only to have that thing eclipsed like whatever it was, like 40 minutes later. So, yeah, I give both kickers credit, man. They were booming them without question. All right, Jerome, what do you got? Hey, Coach, what do you think are the Lions' strengths and weaknesses? Strengths, so if you're talking about just from a physical standpoint, they've got some athletes on the field in certain positions. I think especially on defense, they need to, as far as a weakness, they need to get a lot more athletic, especially on the defensive line. Linebackers, I don't think are too bad. Secondary, they've got some athletes. They're just those guys have some weaknesses as far as mechanical structures. Uh, they could probably use a little bit more size in the secondary as well. One of the reasons why I think mobile quarterbacks give us a fit is because of the lack of overall athleticism in the front seven. It's not that these guys aren't athletic, it's just no superior athlete up there. As far as the offense, you could debate that is also true to a certain extent, although with the emergence of Gibbs, the emergence of JMO, that has helped alleviating that a little bit more. So, I don't want to go back to the Goff hooker debate or mobile quarterback debate, but it does add another layer if you have a quarterback who can scramble and break man coverage. A lot of teams, I'm sure we all noticed as the year went on, start playing us a little bit more man to man. And if you have a guy who would scramble, you're going to be able to pick up, unless there's specifically front four or front seven that can contain with superior athleticism a more mobile quarterback. But the same problems you saw all year with the Detroit Lions stopping mobile quarterbacks, you saw on display last night. Brock Purdy is mobile enough to get out there and be able to pick up 3, 4, 5 yards. Patrick Mahomes is damn mobile enough where he can pick up, 5, 6, 7, 10 yards. And that makes it a little bit more difficult on teams because it means you have to play, at least with your second layer of the defense, a lot more zone coverage just to keep eyes on him, to keep a mobile quarterback at bay. And look at Justin Fields, Minnesota. One of the reasons why they do a phenomenal job not allowing Justin Fields to run on him is they play predominantly so much zone coverage, and their front four can absolutely get after the quarterback. All right, Moonscar, at least the Super Bowl was close all game. This is true. No boring blowout. I enjoy a defensive game. It's a masses that want to watch high-scoring affairs like today's NBA. Yeah, and I think there's a ton of truth to that, Moonscar. A ton of truth to that. Hookadoo. All right, morning, Coach and Duke Crew. Go Lions, 100%. This is the year of the Lion. 2024/5 is the year of the Lion. Phil, still tired from watching that snoozer? Oh, hey, I'm surprised you didn't take a little nap during it. I came close once or twice. And getting Jen to stay up that late, man, if it's past 8:30, chances are she's probably already asleep on the couch, sort of watching the game. And by sort of watching, I mean with the eyes closed. Dave, greetings and salutations. Super Bowl is over, and I'm ready for the new season to kick off. That game last night put me to sleep. Yeah, and there's some people that loved it, some people that didn't. That's okay with it either way. Phil, how many knew what was going to happen? As far as the last second win in overtime, who knows, man? But it was a good game because it was close. The commercials, probably, in my opinion at least, you guys can have your own, probably overall were a little bit better this year than the last few years. There were some decent ones. There were some duds, but hey, if you can't score if you don't shoot. All right, Pickering Auto. What do you got? Best commercials I had to be, I think it was the insurance company with Goff and St. Brown. Yeah, those were pretty neat. Did some checking. That company did those commercials prior to the Lions and San Francisco game. They had faith. You know what? Kudos to them if that's what happened. And you know what? I thought both guys did a good job with it. They even thought about maybe checking out that company because of it. All right, Brother Ken, Andy Reid to Dan Campbell. We won the Super Bowl, man. By only sacking the quarterback once, man. Yeah, you're really coming at Campbell today. That's all right, man. I can totally see or hear him in my head based on your writing there, Brother Ken. Don, we got it. Good morning, everyone. Watching those two teams last night, I can safely say the Lions can indeed win a Super Bowl. They can. Yeah, I think they're on par with either of those teams. Phil, LOL, Brother Ken, 100%. Jerome, hey, Coach, if one of your players got in trouble off the field like a domestic violence, would you cut him from the team, even if it's just an accusation? Not an accusation. I really get chippy with, when people sometimes throw people under the bus or what do you want to say, into the fire based on accusations. You gotta do the right thing and let somebody defend themselves. I'm not a big fan of guilty until proven innocent. Maybe it's the reporter in me. So before I was just a full-time sports reporter, I had to cover a lot of jury trials and courtroom stuff. And I seen enough time as a younger person watching that stuff where people were falsely accused of things that ended up not being true. and you could see how much people already cast judgment on somebody just because of they were being having an accusation against them. Now, that stuff gets proven true, though, and the degree of what happened also needs to come into factor, I believe. Then, then maybe, you cut them or move on from them. But give them a chance to defend themselves first. Brother Ken, yes, all smiles on that one, man. Michael, key blitzes, right, Brother Ken? Yeah, exactly. All right, Phil, best thing about the game was the halftime. It was pretty good. Yeah, they did, I thought, a pretty good job with it. And man, you saw some really athletic and people out there just flipping, flying around. Some dude got shot out of a cannon. I mean, they did a pretty good job with that production. Bruce, greetings, salutations. Anyone know of a corner or two we could trade for? That's probably something we need to do a thing on this week. But if anybody's got ideal thoughts, go ahead and let me know. But I know there's a few guys out there that teams have talked about moving on from. I would not be surprised if LaShawn Lattimore from the Saints gets cut or traded. Phil, Riddick and Bosa stink. Yeah, they're not what they want, especially Bosa, not what he once was. But it'd be interesting to see if somebody takes a flyer on them at a low cost. Jason, Superdome or bust. I agree with you, 1,000,000,000%. Pat, I thought both teams' defense played well. 49ers just seemed to have a ton of injuries last night. They did. It just seemed like every couple minutes they had somebody on offense or defense going down. But that also shows this, far into the season, just how beat up these bodies are, man. You gotta feel bad for them, man. Because anybody makes it to the Super Bowl and then, like Greenlaw going out on the field, apparently messed up his Achilles. You feel for him, but that just shows you've got to have depth in this league in order to make any kind of real long run throughout the entire season. Moonscar, I think Brad sticks to his guns and builds primarily through the draft. I would agree with that, unless he can get someone younger on a decent contract. Yeah, there's probably a ton of truth to that. Good call on that, Moonscar. Phil, I can see it now. Dan Campbell returns to New Orleans. Yeah, that would be something. That would be a storyline for sure. Moonscar, I'd rather see a proven corner in free agency. That's where I think a lot of people would probably agree with you on that, just because corners typically take a while. Now, I do think there will be a couple decent corners at the end of the first round. It's just whether or not you want to go that direction, offensive line or whatever. That's the stuff that Brad Holmes and the scouting department have to figure out. But there will be some corners available for sure. Boo, Greenlaw injury reminds me of Stephen Tulick. Good call there. Yeah, for those who don't remember, Tulick was just celebrating a play, jumped up, did his normal, arms out, and that's when the Achilles went on him. Oh, or was it Achilles or ACL? I'm trying to remember. Anyways, Doug, good morning, everyone. I think we have a strong shot at getting back to the NFC title game. San Francisco is the top dog right now, and they are aging out. Yeah, they are starting to get some guys that are starting to creep up there a little bit in age. They do have some younger guys as well, but you had as long a run that they've had the last 5 years. I mean, give them a lot of credit. They keep making it to the title game. They made it to the Super Bowl, twice in 5 years? And unfortunately for them, they've been on the short side of things. That all that extra wear does accumulate over time on those bodies. So they're going to be in a real big spot where they're going to need some real infusion of younger players here quickly. Pickering, anyone know how many Super Bowl rings Andy Reid has now and how many teams he coached for those rings? Reid has been around way back, even during the Barry era. As far as rings, no, offhand, to be honest, Pickering, I don't know how many he has off the top of my mind. If somebody does have that or wants to look it up and throw it in the chat, that's a good question to answer. Phil, we live by the draft. Our scouting is the best in the business. I would agree. We do. If to your point, Phil, if we're not the best scouting department in the NFL, we've got to be in the top, 2 or 3 at the very least. Bit Lady, greetings and salutations, Coach and Duke Crew. Super Bowl was meh. Felt like San Francisco gave that one away with second half blunders and gifted Mahomes with another MVP on quite an average night. 2024 Lions, Super Bowl or bust. I concur with that 1,000,000,000%. Whatever they're going to do to shore up this team, make it a little bit stronger, whether it's the draft, free agency, trades, I don't know. But I will say this, what we currently have would appear to be enough, especially as some of these younger players. You think about Laporta, Gibbs, Campbell, Branch. They're only going to be in their second year next year. Now, Panay and all of them, they're only going to be in their, third, fourth year. And then you get the other draft class that's going to come in, and they're going to be in their third year. So the point is the bulk of this team is younger, and man, Jamison Williams by the end of the year, even in the NFC title game, you could see where he's starting to become a difference maker. If he kicks it up another notch, next year, imagine that offense with all those weapons out there, and that's not even considering anything they might add or address with this year. So the future does look pretty bright there, Bit Lady, and I agree with you 100%. Super Bowl or bust. Thaddeus, what do you got? Good morning, all. Back at you. Good morning. Phil, don't forget Broderick Martin. Yeah, that's a good point there, Phil. And the other developing players we have. Yeah, Broderick Martin, if he comes out there and really shows strong promise and helps upgrade the defensive line, I mean, who knows? I'm a homer when it comes to James Houston. Maybe he develops a little bit more and is healthy. This defense could be a lot different. And obviously what the team feels about Broderick Martin, James Houston, whoever else, that's going to be reflective on what they do in free agency and the draft. I still think Brad Holmes is going to go with whatever the scouting department says this is the best player at this particular pick. That's where we're going. And to me, it won't matter if it's a position of need or not. That just seems really how they target things. And I'm not going to fight them on it because you know what? They've done nothing but be successful. All right, Jerome. Hey, Coach, how do you handle criticism or negative feedback from people? Hey, it's the one thing I would say that I'm glad I learned from coaching a long time ago. You can't worry about it. It probably when I was younger in my 20s or whatever, starting out, just because I was in my 20s, I probably did worry about it. But there comes a point where you wake up and just say, why? I mean, if somebody doesn't like a call I make, formation or whatever, they didn't like the flea flicker. I mean, whatever it is, who cares, man? At the end of the day, you got to make your own choices. And I would say this, take it for what it's worth. Matt Millen knows football. Matt Millen, though, listened to way too many other people other than himself. Listen to critics and listen to other people that he probably shouldn't have on who to draft and who to take and how to run a team. And that's why the Lions were so tragically horrible during his regime. He was going 20 different directions trying to appease people versus probably sticking to what he ultimately knew was the right choice. You're going to be a coach. You're going to be a YouTuber. You're going to be whatever you're going to be. It comes a point where you just got to look in the mirror and say, hey, I'm going to win. I'm going to die in life based on my choices and not trying to make everybody else happy. You could do that. You're probably going to be happy, Jerome. All right, Phil, how many hurt players will we draft this year? Phil, that sounds like something you need to take to Vegas and put on a sports book better, whatever, some sort of thing that people can bet on. I'm going to go with one. I'm going to go with one just because I think, there'll be some sort of value there or whatever. But, I'll go with one. Let me know how many of you guys think we'll take this year. Here's Johnny. Boycotted the game. No regrets. Hey, nothing wrong with that, man. A lot of people didn't want to watch it, and a lot of people didn't watch it. So you're all right in my book, man. Brother Ken, Andy Reid to Dan Campbell. Listen, man, I have 3 Super Bowl rings, man, because I didn't make emotional bonehead decisions, man. So I'm doing the best I can with that, Ken. But yeah, you're on fire this morning, clearly. All right, Babylon Lions. Why did I feel that the Lions would have performed much better offensively than the 49ers defensively? Not so sure, though. No, I think you're probably spot on with that. I think the Lions would have done more than either of the teams offensively. Now, that also being said, doesn't mean that our defense wouldn't have given up more, as you're alluding to. So I think you're pretty spot on with that. Trump's, I'm not sure what that means, so I'll go with that. All right. Trump's no religion. I'm out later. All right. Sorry about that, man. So yeah, no religion, no politics in here, man. All right. Bet lady, as far as trades or free agent acquisitions, I think Brad Holmes will open up the purse if he finds the right guy for our culture at the right price. We were one game from the Super Bowl, so you can make a high profile deal now. It will be interesting, Bet lady, to your point. Is this the year he says, we're going to go ahead and be a little bit more sort of aggressive, trying to acquire a few more things to push us over the hump. Let's not forget he was a part of the Rams organization that said skip them picks. So yeah, it's possible. We'll just have to see if he's going to break trend in order to do it. Trump, God bless America. Later. And back at you. Hopefully you have a great day, man. Hopefully you have a good one. Man Bear, I'm not an Usher fan, but I thought he did a good job. Yeah, I know some of his songs. I can't say I know a ton of them, but I just watching everything happen, I thought they did a pretty good job of stuff. And I know I could never do any of that. That's beyond my skill sets or wheelhouse, but give them props where props is due. I thought it was visually very entertaining, plus the music as well. All right, brother Ken, Andy Reid, Dan Campbell. Listen, man, I'm a Democrat, man. Oops. Oh yeah, no politics, man. Come on, let's keep it out of here. All right, Michael, greetings, salutations, Coach and Do Crew, back at you. Here's Johnny, the Taylor Swift Cobra Bowl. Oh boy, here we go. There we go. All right, Trump. We will care about politics when these. Oh, yeah, okay. Draft. Let's see. Robert, draft Jared Versa or Chop Robinson if available. Save a trade for more experienced cornerbacks. Just my opinion. No, I think a lot of people, Robert, to your point, really would prefer if the Lions go out and get a more developed cornerback. And I get it. Typically, they take a while to develop and grow. So, if you really feel this is your window of opportunity the next year or two or three, do you want to wait a year or two or three for someone to find, kind of get their feet wet and get really versed at how to play cornerback in the NFL? So I think you're onto something there. Ludell, you all love Goff, but quarterback who extends plays won Super Bowl. I mean, I get it. I get it, man. It's just the tough part is, let me ask you guys, and I want to save a lot of this for a deeper debate when we do the Goff Hooker, comparison, I guess, on tomorrow's show. But who are you going to bring in that we can all say we know is better than Goff? Because to me, that's the problem. We know what you have in Goff, or what we have in Goff. We know his strengths, his weaknesses. And yes, you probably don't want to put the future of the universe on Jared Goff running a 40-yard dash. It's not a strength. But if we can all identify someone that we can say, hey, is clearly better than Goff and is mobile and athletic, who's that guy? That's where I think the problem there lies. Phil, meh, okay. Phil, Bugs got himself a ring. I do believe he did get himself a ring, yes. Now, I'd have to dive into that, like if he met the qualifications for it. But since he was on the practice roster, I do believe he got one. So kudos to him, man. I'm happy for him. I get he might not have been happy about getting released from the Lions or whatever. But you know what? Hey, life's too short, man. When he was here, he did some good things. Obviously, there were some things that alienated the team from him. But I'm just going to say this to him, man. Hey, go out. Hope you celebrate and cheer. Kudos for getting that ring. Not many people get it. All right, Michael, I can see Brad Holmes getting 2 mid-level guys instead of 1 star, double dipping at positions like defensive line and cornerback in free agency or DB, i.e., 2 $8 to $11 million cornerbacks. Yeah, defensive ends. Yeah, I can see that. That would seem, Michael, to your point, a little bit more consistent with his past. So you could be onto something there. Carol, what do you got? Good morning, everyone! Exclamation point. Coach Dan, what were your takes on the guys you were keeping an eye out for? So the big one for me was Snead, cornerback. I didn't think it was his best game ever. I'll say that. But I still see what I thought I saw before. He is highly aggressive in coverage. He is physical. He plays the run. I won't say at an elite level, but I would say an acceptable level. So he's got the ideal for me. He's got a good, width span, arm length, whatever you want to say. He can cover some ground. I don't think there's really a true shutdown elite corner in the free agency pool this year. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe LaShawn Lattimore gets released or whatever, and he's not elite, but he's pretty dang close, especially in certain situations. So in my opinion, if you look at the free agency corners, I still think he's the number one for how we play defense. Now, Aaron Glenn wakes up today or tomorrow and says, we're going to change everything up. Then that's probably going to change the route they go in free agency corners. The other one is Chris Jones. It was just for, giggles, because I really don't believe the Kansas City Chiefs are going to let him go. That being said, sometimes you have to make a business decision versus, a talent decision. And they're going to have some guys, because they have drafted well. They're going to come up for bigger contracts sooner versus later. Can they keep Chris Jones is the point. Obviously, we all know what Patrick Mahomes is getting paid. Chris Jones got paid pretty good this year. He's going to probably want more than a 1-year deal for the upcoming years. So do I think the Lions would go after Jones? Probably not, just because it shifts from the narrative that is the consistency with how Brad Holmes runs things. Snead, though, on the other hand, I think we could potentially get him, and he probably for us would be our number one corner. You look in that scenario, if he's number one, I think Cam Sutton, especially when that toe heals up, is a pretty adequate number two. Now you got Brian Branch as number three. Jerry Jacobs, you bring him back as number four. And I'm trying to be fair to Jerry Jacobs. I get teams picked on him left and right. But I think as your number four cornerback, he's more than acceptable. So that's at least my thoughts. But you guys, if you have different ones, by all means, fire away. Big D, Bugs did get a ring. Yeah. Oh boy, here we go. Ludell, thanks, Pickering, for these fans kidding themselves. Appreciate Goff for playoff experience, but nothing more. Yeah, and that's the other part. I mean, to me, the debate about Goff is often like, I'm dating someone and I like them, but I look over there, I like that person potentially a little bit more. So at some point, you just got to be happy with what you got in life, man. Goff might not be this or that, but I know this. He got us 2 playoff wins. He's done things in 3 years here that we haven't ever seen outside of 1 year in Detroit in my lifetime. So maybe there's a moment of pause there. And again, if we all come to some sort of debate and say, hey, there's this guy and they're clearly better than Goff, fine, man. If we're getting Patrick Mahomes tomorrow, we're probably all taking him. But therein lies the problem. How realistic is it we're going to get somebody significantly better or equal to Jared Goff? If our only issue with Jared Goff is he can't really scramble, and to me as an NFL quarterback, that's just it's up there on the list. It'd be nice to have, but it's not all defining. There's a lot of guys who can scramble that aren't great quarterbacks or even average quarterbacks. And I use this too much. Therein lies the problem. Hookadoo. It was just worth it to watch San Francisco lose. Salt in the wound. There you go, man. Hopefully you got your Morton salt out there and rubbed it right in there. Gary, what do you got? Good luck Tuesday, Coach, versus my Lady Vikings. We will be down there playing. And, if you're coming out to watch, let me know, man. I'll say hi to you or whatever. But I'm looking forward to this week's worth of games. We could start getting a little bit more ready for the playoffs, which are 3 weeks away. Ludell, Goff slappy like Motor City Man. Yeah, I mean, there's some people love him to death, some people hate him. I'm not here to be one way or the other. I'm just trying to be as analytical as I can be when evaluating players and their potential. So, we'll see what happens. All right, Brent, good morning, coach and crew. Lions are better than both teams, ! And I would agree with you that I think we could have won last night. Going home today. Congrats, man. I'm happy for you. Stay hungry, Pride. Superdome or bust. Yeah, I was going to ask you how you were doing, but thanks for that. And I'm glad you're doing better, and I'm guessing you're ready to be home. So, Brent, have a good day with that. Phil, crush them Tuesday. Float the Vikings. There we go. We'll see what we can do. All right, Michael, keep both Goff and Hooker. We need to have a good backup, and we don't know what he is yet. Yeah, and I would think since we're so on this topic, let's just say it. Let's say Hooker comes out, and you know what? The team's like, man, this has got to be the starting quarterback. We're going with this guy. Then great, you've done this. You've put him in a position where he can go out there and succeed. You got Goff as a backup for 1 year, and at that point, you're going to have significantly more cap to move around to other players for a couple years until Hooker's contract expires. I think he's got, I'm trying to remember. Is it 3 years or 4 years? I don't know. I want to say it's 3-year deal, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is 4 years. But anyway, but let it be a quarterback battle. I mean, as it should be, in my opinion, with any position in any sport. I'm never a fan of just saying you're the starter no matter what, because then you negate the potential for other players to develop. Because players are aware if they have an option or an opportunity to overtake somebody. So, in my opinion, let them both play it out. Let the best person win and have some friendly competition for the spot. I only see that benefiting the team. If you're emotionally weak where you can't handle that kind of competition, I don't see how you can go out there and be at a high level during an emotional, competitive game. So, handle your business in practice. Phil, Lions would have scored 40 points. I believe so. Now, Phil, how many would we have given up, though? If we would have given up 40, then it would be a push. But I think we probably only gave up probably about where both teams were. I would probably been low to mid, maybe upper 20s. But I do agree we'd have scored into the 30s, maybe 40. All right, Anthony, Nothing against Goff, but mobile quarterbacks are able to extend plays, and we do not have a mobile quarterback and Hook. We do have a mobile quarterback and Hooker. We do, and it's just I know this. I'm really looking forward to watching next preseason just to see what Hooker can do, and other guys too. But all eyes are going to be on that guy though this offseason. Phil, only Mahomes I want to see is in Sports Illustrated. There you go. All right. Detroit D, San Francisco coach blew the game. There's going to be some chatter about that for this upcoming week in the national media. I would agree with that, D. Hopefully having a good morning, man. Michael, what do you got? Kansas City wide receivers couldn't get separation because they averaged not elite. Yeah, they've drafted a bunch of guys in the last year or two. Some of them are still developing. But, yeah, they don't have that over-the-top elite dude at this time. All right, Ed, good morning, Coach and Duke Crew. Good game last night, but I saw two teams the Lions can and did beat. Yes, I would agree. Neither team looked dominant by any means, and I'm with you. Sounds like everybody in the chat or show today, we could have won that game. All right, Ed, hope you had a good time at the party last night, by the way, Ed. Hopefully you guys all had a good time. Phil, got to stop Mahomes from stepping up in the pocket. Defense was over-pursuing. Yeah, the first half, I thought they did a real good job of it. Second half, not so much. All right, Phil, Moody lost another game with a blown extra point. Yeah, well, I mean, it got blocked, right? So it is what it is. But, yeah, it didn't help. Michael, Lions currently have 39-plus players signed compared to 23 last year, so we're ahead of the 90-man roster. Yeah, I'm talking about the top 51 to 53 towards cap. Yep, I agree. Yeah, they're being very aggressive and calculating so far, and we all know about the CFL guy will be signed later this week. And I want to see there's one other player that they're going to try to sign later this week too. But yeah, you guys know where I'm going with that. All right, Phil, why did Kelsey bump Andy Rice in anger? Andy Reid in anger? Because he wasn't on the field for that key play. He took exception to it. You know, I get it. I get emotions and stuff like that. But man, if a lot of other players did that, they probably would have been suspended. Oh man, you're opening up a can of worms if you start allowing that. And yeah, they're going to have to address that in some way, even if it's in token fashion. It's got to be handled. You can't be doing that, right? Reed, yeah, I knew we were going with that, man. Excuse me, Michael. All right, Michael. Bad commercials this year. Overall, I hate saying it, but overall, a lot of them were kind of meh in my eyes. I thought there were the ones that were good. And the last few years, it just doesn't seem like they're as strong as they once were. The commercials, that is. Moonscar, commercials were superior, Dan. Very good. All right. There we go. Parsley, let's not even start this mess. Right now, Goff is the starter and Hooker is the backup. Agreed, 100%, as it should be. It's not fair to compare them without Hooker, have some game time experience. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Goff's your dude, Hooker's the backup, but there's nothing wrong with having competition for the starting spot in the offseason. And if Goff can hold him off, then great. That's the way it should be, especially as the returning starter. If Hooker comes out and just is that guy, then the team has to make a choice. But that should be the way it is at every position. There should never be anybody, hey, you're just the guy just because then you stop players from developing. And I just, as a coach at least, I'm not a fan of that. Silver Surfer, leave the 49ers alone. Not their fault if Lions gave them the game and went on 4th and 2 and insulting the pride, showing greediness, and not making it. Should have been the Lions and would have won. Yeah, I would agree. If the Lions made the Super Bowl, I think there's a real good chance they would have won it, but they didn't make it. So, you got to look at next year now. Phil, they got to be woke commercial. Oh boy. Still crying. Trump's all right. Fair enough. All right. Lions. I get all Lions fans are still crying about the title game loss, but don't worry, man. I do believe we're going to be around for a few more years. Michael, Lions have top 5 offense in yards and points. Defense has made big strides from 2022 to 2023. Hopefully we can get around top 10 this year. Yeah, if they can get a couple things on the defense, I think they can kick it up a notch or two. And to your point, maybe they border right around the top 10 as far as defenses. Cloud, we got no Holmes will not trade for Bosa or writing would need to give up too much. I think he signs a free agent. There's a strong possibility of that. I concur. Gary, how many Pro Bowlers did we have on offense? How many Pro Bowlers did we have on defense? We need to address defense. Yeah, and I think that's probably, it's at least my guess, where they're going to go with things. Charles, I don't think we would have been overtime if 49ers kick extra point that was not blocked, and I don't remember any of the commercials. Yeah, you're 100% right. Like Phil is pointing out, if that extra point doesn't get blocked, Niners win it, but it did get blocked, so that's why it happened. Man, game of inches, man. Something as simple as the extra point getting blocked ultimately may have changed the course of the outcome of the game. Well, I guess you could say it did change the out course. All right, mile marker, good morning. OMG, running so late, Super Bowl. Okay, fair enough, and good morning to you. Trey, I have hope in the Lions next season, but we should know if the NFL, there's nothing guaranteed season to season. Grand rising to all. Grand rising to you too, my friend. It's been a minute. Yeah, and you're 100% right. You just never know what's going to happen from one team from one season to the next. Look at the Philadelphia Eagles. It's from the Super Bowl to being whatever they were, 10-0 to, to being a train wreck. All right, Michael, Dan Thornton, can you look at those teams that need to cut salary cap for lower tier players, $3 to $5 million, offensive guard, defensive tackle for depth plus another positions? Thanks. Yeah, and I'll see what I can do about that. You might have to give me a couple days on that one there, Michael, but I'll see what I can do. JDC, Lions fans, keep your hands and feet in while the offseason is running. Go Lions. Go Lions, and hopefully have a great morning there, JDC. Trade, don't sleep on the Packers next year. The division is going to be a race between the Lions and the Packers. Yeah, and I would agree with you. Packers have done a great job. And again, drafting, developing their own players, a couple of key signings here and there in free agency, but they really are, in my opinion, one of the model franchises in the NFL, just because you look at all the things going against them. Location isn't probably an ideal situation for most free agents. They really do have to rely on their scouting department and their front office running the ship right. And for 30 years, maybe even over 30 years now, I don't know, but they've been relevant, and that's kudos to them. Dale, he has six rings. Okay. Thanks for that, Dale. Is that still you? One Pride? Thank you for that. Dash, what do you got? Good morning, fellow Lions fans. Good morning to you too. Jeff, with the defense getting upgraded, I really believe the Lions can win the Super Bowl. Yeah, if they can get real relevant on defense to where they make life a challenge for other quarterbacks, I agree with you. Max, no KC or 49er players. All right, fair enough. All right, Keys, Trey, do you think Packers are thinking the same way about the Lions? That's a good question, and at least I would say they probably are. I mean, I really think the division next year, let's not forget about Chicago. I think they're going to be around. Minnesota is kind of the big question mark, because if they resign Kirk Cousins, I think they're going to be as relevant as anybody else. Maybe not quite to the same level as some of the other teams, but man, Green Bay is probably going to be challenging us for the division. Chicago, depending on how they handle the draft and free agency and everything else, they could be relevant as well. Minnesota is the one question mark I have right now, but they are in a position where they could handle their own businesses as well. So this could be, how about this? The NFC North could be the top division in all the NFL next year. Trey, what do you got? Keeps, I'm not worried about what Packers fans are thinking. And to be quite frank, knowing Packers fans, they might think they have it in the bag. Yep, they beat us during the season as well. Yeah, we split with them. How about this? It's going to be fun watching what happens next year, because every divisional game is going to be a contest. It's going to be a dogfight, and that's going to affect everybody's overall record, because I don't think anybody's going to go undefeated in the division next year. Not that anybody did this year, but I think there's a real strong potential whoever wins the division might go 500 in the division, or at least fairly close to it. So food for thought. And JDC, NFC North will be a battleground. I concur with that. Iceman, crazy how Matt Stafford and Isaiah Buggs both left the Lions and won a Super Bowl. One a season later, and the other the same season. I get it. One earned it, and the other one didn't. Yeah, and there's been other Lions that have done it. I mean, Lomas Brown won 2 Super Bowls with different teams once he left Detroit. And there's probably a ton of other guys that have done it that we're all just not thinking of. But it's unfortunate since nobody alive, as far as a player, or at least very few players alive, have won a championship, NFL championship. They who played for the Detroit Lions. Javier, what do you got? We need to draft Smith, Wade, cornerback, and wide receiver Luke McCaffrey. Yeah, and I know in the mock draft we mentioned McCaffrey, especially in the latter rounds. He does have some potential, I think, for sure. Phil, Goff is the smartest quarterback in the league. Some evidence of that. So he didn't play perfect all season, but nobody ever does. He had a couple window stretch where he wasn't great. Some of that was in credit to those teams. They caught the Ben Johnson and Goff kind of unprepared for a few defensive adjustments. All right, guys, it's been an hour. I got to go ahead and get ready for work. Go get, the morning Mountain Dew, all that other kind of stuff. Hit the gym a little bit before the opening bell. So if you haven't yet subscribed, Lions Talk Live, please consider doing so. Also, if you would be so kind, hit the thumbs up button. Other than that, if there's some breaking news today, I'll get it on the mic as quick as possible. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you all in the next Lions Talk Live. See you guys.